and release all of those sounds that are trapped in your mind.
In response, Gorgon's gaze. In this episode of Man Yells in Front of Slides About a Card Game, Counter Runes. Are they a problem? As we head into livestream and with the ban list behind us, we know we're heading into another format of seeing all of the lovely Omni runes we have been handling since base set. Some players are growing impatient and want things to change. They are tired of seeing the same cards over and over again. There was so much discourse about this in Discord that Dan himself responded. For this video, I want to open by seeing Dan's full response, unedited, talking about the points and the progress we're seeing and where that leaves us on the game. So let's jump right into it. I've seen quite a bit of discussion on this and revealed cards thread. I've been enjoying the discourse and feedback. It's been constructive, insightful, and I think helpful for players to express their pain points or wins in the game. On the surface, some of these solutions may seem simple, but a quick scan through those convos and you'll see opinions may differ quite a bit among players. A few thoughts. I think we all want something similar. More varied deck building options, more diversity among decks, and less reliance on a few powerful cards that fit into every deck. These are all things we're working towards, but it does take some time. I've said from the beginning that my goal was never to invalidate old sets, rush to power creep, or take Elestrals into a different game so soon in its life. I know for those of us who have been here since the beginning, it's easy to be a bit exhausted about certain cards, but for new players, a centralized rune suite is in a lot of ways positive to ease their learning into the game. My goal for the next few sets, specifically 6, 7, and 8, is to introduce a few different things. And a quick aside, Lifestream is set 6. So he's talking about Lifestream and the 2 sets that come after to finish the Divine Champions arc. New conditional removal that allows various elements to rid of Elestrals more specifically in the context of their element. Less splashability, but decent power level in the context of those archetypes. New counter runes that fill some roles Gorgon's Gaze and others have. Currently, Gorgon's is our only real Elestral negate, and removing it, in my opinion, would have some pretty major consequences. In due time, we'll be able to include elemental-focused negation that's a bit less splashable, but can serve similar functions and not overload 5 effects on one card. More cards that encourage divine usage, uplift those strategies, and allow more game plan / archetype-focused strategies as opposed to primarily the game focusing on good stuff piles. More focus on Nexus cards that generate advantage as opposed to remove opponent advantage. Omni runes will be few and far between for a while, as the focus will be on not only including more element-focused runes, but also I'll be putting an even larger focus on including a more varied rune pool in the set. Set 6, I think, has 22 new runes, which is the most since base set, if I'm not mistaken. I know there's some that are growing impatient, and I can understand that. I'm not here to make a game for 3 years and vanish. I'm building a foundation for the next 20 years. Some things will get right, some not so much, but we'll continue to learn, adapt, and make the best choices we can to get the game in the best place. I take this part of Elestrals very seriously. It's probably what I consider the most essential part of my job, because without a good game that people can enjoy, we're failing on our number one objective. To be clear, I don't believe we are failing at the moment, but I understand the discontent from players who've been playing for a long time. You have my commitment to doing the best I can and putting my energy into making Elestrals a game that can be enjoyed by as many people as possible. That may not mean Elestrals is perfect for you right now or ever, but I hope you find comfort in knowing your perspective is heard and that we're actively trying. Thank you for your thoughts and support. So let's take the time to analyze the specific points he is addressing here and how the outlook is for them now that we've seen a good chunk of the Lifestream set. The first part we're talking about here is new conditional removal that allows for various elements to get rid of Elestrals in their context. We've already seen some of this for Livestream. With the Cyprong reveal, we see an example of where they are moving to with some of these removal effects that are more archetype dependent and fit into a specific element. I think Cyprong is a really interesting example of where they want to take the removal, and it makes me hopeful. There's also, of course, the Gorgon in the corner of the room. New counter runes that fill the role of Gorgons. We have yet to see this for livestream. Reveals aren't done, so maybe by the time you see this video, we'll know of a negate in livestream. But at the moment, it looks like Gorgons is going to continue to fill this role for a while. I personally believe that Gorgons is a very important piece of interaction that allows you to do something more than hope you have more combo pieces in your hand than your opponent. And just because it's boring to see over and over doesn't mean that there's not strategy involved. You have to choose when to use the Gorgons. You gotta know the points of interaction, when to hold the Gorgons, when to use the Gorgons. It does generate feels bad game states where your opponent saw 3 Gorgons against you, but there's really no getting away from that in a TCG. Sometimes your opponent is going to high roll the hand, and whether that's with Gorgons or something else, it will feel bad when it happens, but a luck-based game has those moments, and I think that is okay. Now, when it comes to the Nexusing cards, Kinleo and Equilinx are an example of old Nexus cards I think they're talking about here when they're talking about removing opponent advantage. Equilinx getting rid of runes, Kinleo Elestrals. We see an example of where they're going with this already, because Sprout here, Champion of Dio, has been revealed, which allows you to Nexus, and when you do, you can search the deck for more Champions of Dionysus or Dionysus's Madness. This is in the spirit of some cards we've seen in the past already, such as Exaltus and Comalis, which do something similar. But Sprout here represents a better body and a more diverse search pool because it can also search Dionysus's Madness. So we see the direction they're going in with this, and I think it's a positive one. More effects that allow you to build your board and go at your opponent with your board more than just simply removing your opponent board. Now, when it comes to the matter of replacing Omni runes and getting more specific elemental runes, in Firestorm we did see this with the winds. Unfortunately, the winds have pretty niche usage. Monsoon has seen some usage because of its kind of silly way it can be a battle trick in certain situations, but in general, the winds have not seen widespread use. However, Livestream gives us hope that they are in fact giving us good counter runes to start doing things with. One, we have Guardian of Light, which is like a more niche version of Shield that costs less but also does less, fitting into the solar archetype, allowing you to heal and so forth, which is, starting to give us a flavor of what Dan was talking about when he said we would be getting some counter runes that will replace some of the effects of the Omni ones. And we also have Rise from the Shadows, which is a really interesting counter rune, which is also an example of generating advantage instead of removing advantage, right? Like Rise from the Shadows doesn't necessarily stop your opponent, it just allows you to bring back a card that was outed. So these both give me a lot of hope for the direction where they're taking counter runes to be more flavorful to elements while still doing useful things. Now, of course, like Dan says, he considers this the most important part of his job. He's taking it really seriously. And to be clear, this is one of the things I love most about Elestrals. They're not perfect. Everyone's going to make their mistakes, but they really listen and take player feedback seriously. I am sure they're going to continue to make missteps. But what I'm also sure of is they're going to be working their hardest to make sure the game is fun and interesting each set. Especially with the new USA printer, which is going to have lower lead times, they're going to be able to answer the metagame and make more informed changes closer to the release of a set. We already saw an example of this in Livestream for Like a Void. Like a Void, Champion of Artemis, was originally going to be an errata, But the community did not like that, so they changed it to an Escaped from Tartarus version of Like a Void. Just 2 months here before the set is supposed to hit shelves. So I have a lot of hope for their ability to respond to feedback quickly and effectively. And I'd also like to bring up another important point. No matter how much you dislike an opponent interrupting your plays, interaction is part of the game. And your first step in going into any tournament or play environment is your deck building. It's not like Elestrals has 0 options for you to build around to stop counter runes. You can build a deck of low-cost, high-value jerks that you just keep dropping onto the board over and over to overwhelm your opponent and get them to use up their runes, for example. You could play a strategy like Bear Bomb with Majursa, Champion of Hestia, who's designed to drop a big body and remove the back row so you can swing in safely. Heck, you can play a fire deck with Chains of Prometheus. I'm not saying that's the best option in the world. What I'm saying, though, is you enter these environments, and the deck building choices you make are the very first gameplay choice you're making entering that environment. And sometimes asking the game to make those choices for you by removing cards is not the right answer. Now, despite what the internet tells you, the world doesn't have to be so polarized. You don't have to be all in or all out, a total lover or a total hater. It is okay to like the world of Elestrals, Elestria, to love the art, and to not be happy about the place the gameplay is at. It's totally fine to have that set of opinions. And you're valid to do so. It is okay if the current state of Elestrals is a game that you're not super into. Here's the really good news about Elestrals. Clash exists now, and while it's behind on cards, it's only going to catch up more, and all the cards are free forever. Which means, unlike other card games, you don't have to drop a bunch of money to check in on Elestrals and say, hey, do I like the format and where the game is at right now? If you don't like Elestrals right now, it's okay to have another hobby. If you want to go spend a couple of sets, learning woodworking, doing fishing, the world is full of so many fun, interesting things for you to do, and it's okay if that fun, interesting things isn't Elestrals right now. The game will continue to be here for you to come in and check up on, and that's totally fine. Hang out in Elestria when you're enjoying the format, and when you're not, have fun with the millions of other amazing things there are to do out in the world. I'm personally still having a lot of fun with Elestrals. I'm going to enjoy it both in paper and Clash, and I'm really looking forward to Livestream. If there's something you find annoying about Elestrals right now, sound off in the comments below. Just let's get it out there. Let's get it out there. Let me know your least favorite and your most favorite thing about Elestrals right now. It can either be gameplay, art, you name it, put it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you'll like this one over here. And if you're not already, consider subscribing. Thank you so much for sticking with me for another episode of Man Yells in Front of Slides. I hope you have a good one. Happy casting and clashing.